Don't give us the bird. Don't give us your stinker eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show. Bet Rivers sponsors. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
Welcome in, everyone, to Betting Weekly Live. It's Wednesday, the 1st of October, start of a brand new month, and you're with myself, Steve Wyss, and I'm joined by one of the UK's biggest professional gamblers. Will White is alongside me here, and we are going to be looking at the whole card of the UEFA Champions League for Wednesday's slate. Will, how are you doing? How was yesterday for you?
Good day to you, Steve. Good day to everyone out there. Quite the intro, quite the build-up. I know you boys had a really good night last night, actually, so props to you for that. Nigel, in particular, was on great form. Let's hope we can carry it over to today. How was my night? It was a mixed bag. I was against the bandwagon with Frankfurt plus 1.25. That obviously got crushed, but I did have some good winners. I had Galatasaray plus 1. Couldn't really understand that line. And I was on Bodo Glimt plus 0.5 as well. So overall, it was okay. Not as good as Nigel's, but it was
Nigel,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to tip my hat to the boss. You know, he was in literal boss mode. Clean sweep across the board. He absolutely nailed that Frankfurt game. I only had one losing bet, and it was sadly my best bet, though. I was on the overs in that Galatasaray game, but looking back, I was thinking really that plus handicap on Galatasaray certainly was the better bet, considering especially with the Liverpool lineup that came out in that fixture. I was actually expecting to see quite a few big losers on that game from the sportsbook, but most of the money was coming in the Bodo game. I mean, over $200,000 here. That's just on the big bets. Nearly 100 grand was staked on Tottenham. This was live to score a goal, minus 149. So that was good timing for that one. The 50,000 bet that I mentioned yesterday on Tottenham to score in the first half, that was a loser. But there were people getting involved. Tottenham live on the draw no bet handicap minus 132. That was a winner. That 40,000 bet on Frankfurt plus 1.5 was a loser. Joined your club there, Will. That was up in smoke by half time, really, wasn't it? Atletico just on fire. And a good winner in the early game, Qarabag against Real Madrid, over 3.5 goals live, minus 147. And I mean, Real Madrid were there were some big wins yesterday, let's just say that across the board. There seems to be this theme of when the golfing class is there, the top teams are just smashing into opponents in this group stage. One draw again. I mean, drawbackers just keep being bankrupt in this Champions League, Will. What is going on there?
Yeah, I think I saw a stat earlier on that 33% of group stage games so far have been won by 3 goals or more. So I don't know whether that tells us something about how the big teams are kind of approaching it, or more about what, the smaller teams kind of running out of gas pretty early on. I think what it probably tells us for sure is that the big teams these days, especially the Premier League teams, they just have so much depth in their squads. And so when, they do bring on substitutes, and obviously teams have 5 substitutes these days, which is a big change in dynamic that we've only seen since 2020, I think it was when it came in. I think the squad depth is that's where the real difference is. And so, 33% of games being won by 3 or more goals. That's quite the stat.
Welcome everyone into chat. Probably a bit like yesterday. I think we had a record number of people on the chat yesterday. So put your best bets in there, and I'll go through as many as I can. Seen several mentioning the ladders. I don't know if the ladders will be coming out today or not. You have to wait and see on that one. But there's a house special I've got to talk about before we start about the games. Log into your BetRivers account every UEFA Champions League match day to receive a profit boost pack. Each boost pack will consist of 3 25% boosts. One is applicable to live UEFA Champions League wagers. One is for same-game parlays, and one also for an open UCL boost. So do get involved with that on your BetRivers accounts. 9 fixtures to look forward to. Here's the early table, by the way. Shout out to one of the producers, John, behind the scenes here for a lovely piece of work. Several teams still yet to pick up a point, and the early pace setters, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Inter Milan on 6 points. Interesting to see how many other teams have a 100% record after today. But as we get towards the end of this group stage, this is when it all gets complicated with positions. The top 8, 9 to 16, and of course 17 to 24. If you're outside of that zone, you are knocked out of the Champions League for good this season. Let's get into some early fixtures then, Will. We've got a couple of early ones here. Union Saint-Gilloise against Newcastle. Qarabag against FC Copenhagen. I'm going to start with the Qarabag game, actually, because I quite like them here myself. I'm a bit surprised that they're not even favourites for the game. So I think a plus quarter of a goal on Qarabag at minus 107 here against FC Copenhagen looks quite attractive. I mean, I'm not denying that FC Copenhagen on a neutral venue would be the clear favourite and the better team. But, I've mentioned it before about travelling to these awkward locations. Azerbaijan, it's a fair trek. And Qarabag, they've had a great season in Europe. In the qualifying, they look good. And then the remarkable come from behind win against Benfica, which was not entirely undeserved. So home here against FCK, I was just surprised this wasn't a pick'em game, Will, really. As a bare minimum. I don't know where you have this on the rankings. Do you adjust in anything on the home advantage that Qarabag have on the travelling?
It's an interesting game, Steve. It was pick'em actually last night, and there's been a big move for Copenhagen today by some very sharp money. I can see why. Like, my initial reaction when I woke up and saw this line plus a quarter, Qarabag plus a quarter, was that might be a bet. But then I went and I looked at their perceived big home advantage and looked at their results in Europe. And actually last season in the Europa League group stage, they lost all 4 matches at home to Malmo, Ajax, Lyon, and Steaua Bucharest, FCSB. So I think that might be a bit of a cliche. I'm not sure how big their home advantage is. I haven't actually gone and looked at their stadium because, I'm a kind of stickler for these Olympic running tracks around the pitch, which I do not like the looks of those when it comes to home field advantage. I think Qarabag might actually have one of those. Well, I think if I was to side with anyone, it would be Qarabag plus a quarter. That was my initial reaction before I kind of went and examined their home record in Europe. I've always had a soft spot for them. And maybe a small lean on over 2.5. All 4 of those aforementioned Qarabag home games last season, even though they lost them all, they all won over 2.5. I remember some of those games were crazy. I think they had a man sent off, or maybe even 2 men sent off early against Lyon and ended up losing 4-1. And I was on them plus a half that day. So I have lost a fair bit on Qarabag, I think, over the years. So I think I'm going to avoid them plus a quarter, although I definitely lean that. And I'll probably lean over 2.5 as well.
I can sense your sort of battle scars with Qarabag there, hearing what you've had to say. The running track around the pitch, I don't like the look of that one either, Will, especially if I've got to run around it. I'll stay in the stands, thank you very much. But, I think this is the first home game for them in the group stage, obviously. It reminds me a bit of Bodo Glimt yesterday. These teams don't get in the Champions League very often. It's a huge occasion for them. I think they'll bring the noise here, the Qarabag fans. In terms of team news for the game, the big man's not available, I don't think, for FC Copenhagen. Cornelius up front. I mentioned him before. Just a player that is I rate him because he's so awkward to deal with. He gets involved. He won't shy away. And that's a big physical loss. And Maatsen is still injured for them in midfield as well. And I don't think Qarabag will lose this game. Plus quarter of a goal for me at minus 107, I think, is an excellent looking bet. There's quite a few putting both teams to score in as well as a possibility here. That is the biggest bet on the game with the sportsbook. 4-figure bet on that, nearly $3,000, minus 154. The money is tight, really. 66% of that money is on the money line is on Copenhagen. Quite a bit of money on the over, 93% of it on the over there. Will, you did lean towards overs for the sort of fixture. The 2 will draw, something like that can't be ruled out, but I think 2-1 here will do nicely. William Jenner says, "Come on, Steve, 100-meter sprint for the win." I mean, yeah, because it's less yards, basically, William. I don't want to be doing 400 meters, do I? 100 meters will do me. Yeah. Anyway, that will do for the first game. The second early game, Newcastle United are in action away in Belgium. Union Saint-Gilloise take them on, and Newcastle are minus money favourites here after an opening day loss to Barcelona. The match won't be played at Union Saint-Gilloise home ground as normal. It's going to be played at the Lotto Park, which is Anderlecht's stadium. But who's going to hit the jackpot here, Will?
That's great, Steve. Thanks. Thanks for that. Newcastle have been smashed in here, so sharp money likes them. I'm a fan of Newcastle. I think they're underrated in general. I actually backed them at 200 to 1 to win the Premier League, which isn't looking great, but I just think they're underrated. And I kind of did talk about them at 55 to 1 for the Champions League. And they got absolutely smashed in against Barcelona, didn't they? And, were good, pretty good. Barcelona ended up getting the better of them, but Barcelona are a very, very high quality team. And if you're going off on favourite on the draw no bet against Barcelona, albeit with a big home advantage, you've got to take Newcastle seriously. They've been backed in here. Union Saint-Gilloise, another team I really like. They were very good against PSV. They are dangerous, but I think at the current odds, they look about right. Playing it at the kind of neutral ground, I don't think helps Union. And if you look at their record there last season in the Europa League, it was pretty mixed. They lost to Slavia Prague. They drew with Bodo Glimt. They drew with Roma, won against Nice, won against Braga, lost against Ajax. I mean, Newcastle are a lot better than all of those teams. Maybe Roma are kind of up there, but not really. Premier League teams are just so deep and hard to oppose these days. So in the player props, I wanted to get Elanga on side. Anthony Elanga, I think he's going to come in from the start. I think there's a lot of competition for those forward places at Newcastle. And he's been very potent whenever I've seen him this season. Problem is, second favourite in the score or assist market. So I think I'll leave it and just sit this one out, Steve.
Adam Thompson says a couple of things in chat. He says, we're underrated, a Newcastle fan, but we're not quite at it currently. He also said he likes under 2.5 goals for this game. And I do agree with him because just look at Newcastle's away results so far in the Premier League. It's very consistent. Let's just say that. Aston Villa 0, Newcastle 0. Leeds 0, Newcastle 0. Bournemouth 0, Newcastle 0. I mean, is 0-0 a consideration here? I mean, I do like the under. The only thing that puts me off it slightly is I feel Newcastle might feel like they have to win the game. They're the favourites here. It's potentially one of the softer fixtures. I think, Royal Union Saint-Gilloise are a decent side. And we talked about this yesterday, actually, about the Belgian teams that are seemingly improving in certainly in the Champions League. We compared it to the Dutch league yesterday. Are those teams now more on equal footing, do you think, Will? Are the Belgian teams better than they used to be? Is a better word of a question. Yeah,
I think there's a bit of both. I think most people would look at the record of the Dutch teams in Europe so far this season and think that the Dutch league is on a downward trend. In fact, I think we discussed that a couple of weeks ago. They've registered 3 more losses since. And then the Belgian teams, personally, I've always had them highly rated. If I look at my ratings now, Saint-Gilloise, Club Brugge, and PSV are kind of the top 3 from that collective of teams. And then you've got quite the step back to Feyenoord, who are on an upward trend for sure. And then Ajax, that seemed to be on a downward trend, especially after last night. So 2 quite comparable leagues, actually, I'd say.
Yes, I think the Belgian teams are certainly a lot better than they used to be. I've never quite liked Royal Union at home. This disadvantage they have. Their own ground only has like 10,000 fans that can fit in there. So they have to use the Anderlecht ground here. Like I said, Lotto Park it's called now on sponsorship. And, that's why Newcastle are minus money favourites. If it was at Royal Union's ground, I'd imagine Newcastle will probably be about plus 110 or even plus 120 here.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a factor to consider. I do like under 2.5 goals. Worryingly, there's 2 or 3 matches I do like under in today, which is not a great idea in the Champions League recently. But Newcastle away from home, Eddie Howe just seems to be setting them up in a more pragmatic style, restricted style, actually. I mean, that Bournemouth game, that was a legit 0-0. Bournemouth are a sort of team who create a lot of chances, and Newcastle did really well that day. Nick Voltemade, like a few have said in chat, he's expected to start here, and he's getting more into his rhythm now. 2 goals scored for Newcastle, and he's a huge physical player who can make a difference. It might be the difference between nicking a 1-0 win and a draw. So if I had to go with a side, it probably would be Newcastle just by a whisker. But there's a few asking about corners as well in this fixture. I don't really know enough about the style of USG to actually get involved with the corners. Newcastle, I think, can be a good team for corners on certain days. Whether or not this is the one, I'm not entirely sure. There's plenty of money for Newcastle, though, as you might expect. This early kickoff, 79% of the money on the money line is on them, and 89% of the tickets as well. Over-under's a lot more split, just 69% of the money there. And the biggest bet is on Newcastle money line. Even money, nearly $5,000 is on that. Newcastle have lost each of the last 4 Champions League games as a favourite. That is a stat from producer Troy, which might put off some of their backers. But we do go. So you got nothing for that game, sorry, Will, have you? That is a no-bet game for you.
I'm just thinking about the total. I mean, I can see why chat would be leaning under and yourself would be leaning under there. The data would suggest that. Newcastle's data, I mean, they're one of the only 1.66 total XG per 90 in the Premier League this season. That's very low. But I don't know enough about Union either to kind of understand their style of play to get involved in the total. But I think at some point, Newcastle, their kind of high-octane, high-energy approach will turn into more open, high-scoring games. And my sense is about Saint-Gilloise that they are also look to be attacking and on the front foot. So, and then 2.5 is a low line for Champions League, right? When all the data suggests backing overs is kind of the way to go. I can't remember the exact stat, but something like 70% of group stage games between last season and this season went over 2.5. So to bet unders, you've kind of got to have a concrete angle, and I don't.
Claudio S. Soccer is just difficult to make money on. It's a difficult sport, Claudio. We've said that before. But, on nights like yesterday, it's dead easy for Nigel Seeley when he gets it right. So, what's your best bet today, Claudio? Put it in chat. Let us know what you're betting on the Champions League. COD Gaming said he wouldn't bet unders on the Newcastle fixture. I'm interested why you wouldn't, COD Gaming. What is pointing towards overs here for you? Or red flags? I'm really interested there, actually. But anyway, we've got some later games to get stuck into. Now, these will be the 3 p.m. Eastern time kickoffs, and we're going to start in Germany, actually. It's still one of these on the boards here. Bayer Leverkusen against PSV. Leverkusen minus 127 favourites, PSV plus 320. Over 2.5 goals is at minus 175. Now, this is a match I actually don't have anything concrete in myself. I was almost getting sucked into a rabbit hole of corners in this game, but I've decided eventually to leave it alone. I know you've got a few more stronger angles than me here, Will. I mean, Bayer Leverkusen, the change of coach obviously has come very quickly at this stage of the season. Have you seen enough now from them? Sort of you more confident about them in a good or a bad way?
Maybe neutral, kind of more confident in them. I think there's a lot of potential there, but they're in transition, new manager, very young squad. It might take them a while. I don't really have a view on the outcome of this game. Maybe lean Leverkusen, but a bit of money has come for them. But I know match day 1, there was a line set 6.5, I think, was the line over under on my shots on target bets, and I don't think I had one, but I'm back with a vengeance this week, and I've got quite a few for those that are interested, and probably my favorite comes in this game, and it's Claudio Echeverria of Leverkusen by way of Man City. I think this kid is one of the top 3 Argentine talents in European leagues, and he there are quite a few of offensive absences on both sides here. Schick's out for Leverkusen and quite a few for PSV too. And I think Echeverria, he only got 20 minutes against Copenhagen, but he was very influential in those 20 minutes. I'm sure James watched the whole game. I know he likes to say how watching whole games and analysing particular players is the way to find value in the shots on target and the player prop markets in general. And I definitely agree with that. And I went and watched all 21 minutes of Echeverria in that Copenhagen game, and he was very, very influential. He had a shot on target. He had another blocked shot. He does like to collect the ball quite deep, but he also gets into those advanced positions. And at plus 160 for him to have a shot on target, I think the price is really, really big. I wouldn't put anyone off plus 210 for him to score or assist either. But, the goal line here is 3. So the market is expecting quite a few shots and quite an open game. I don't have the fortitude to back under 3.5. I was kind of tempted given the offensive absences on both sides. But at the end of the day, PSV 14 of their last 16 have gone over 2.5. It's hard to back unders in PSV games. So best bet here in this game is to try and get Echeverria onside, whether you prefer the shots on target market, whether you prefer the score or assist under player specials on Bet Rivers. Both of those are attractive options as far as I'm concerned.
Well, hopefully we can get him starting the game. But he's definitely a player. I mean, that's interesting that you rate him so highly there. And a player to certainly keep an eye out today and going forward. Claudio Echeverria for Leverkusen. Several in chat wanting to bet against the Dutch sides here. And I don't blame them, actually, from what we've seen so far. And really, if Bayer Leverkusen show their quality, they win the game. I think they've got too much for them. But it's still, new manager in there. PSV are veterans, really, at Champions League level as well. They do sometimes put in a couple of randomly good performances. So, but they do have a big... Tobias makes a very good point. I've got that written down here. They have got so many injuries, several injuries, loads across the board. So it's not really a good time for them. And you'd imagine probably Leverkusen might get backed in maybe before kickoff. Will perhaps a minus 127. That's going to really tempt a lot of people. Surely that price can't last, can it?
I mean, what would it have been? Minus 250 last season?
Yeah,
probably.
Exactly.
It will tempt a few in. Schick is out though, so that's why I think Echeverria should start here and probably in a slightly advanced, maybe a kind of 10 kind of ish role. So I think it's just that's the way to go for me anyway.
Yeah, I mean this match is again in terms of the splits more on Leverkusen, 81% of the money on that, and 79% of the money on the over/under is on the over. With quite a few people in chat have put their best bet for the day, Barcelona winning over 1.5 goals. So we might as well get straight into this game now. The huge fixture, Will. Barcelona against Paris Saint-Germain. Barcelona minus 137 favourites, PSG plus 320. And the tie is at plus 330. Is one of the new quirks of this Champions League system. We get a lot more of these high-profile games in the group stage. However, sometimes they can be a bit of a damp squib, I found, last season. There's less jeopardy in losing these type of games than compared to when it used to be the case. Barcelona here, the odds-on favourites, they're still not in Camp Nou. It's not far away, is it? I don't think, Will, but still here at the Olympic Stadium against Paris Saint-Germain. Does anything interest you in this game?
A lot interests me from multiple perspectives. First of all, the line, right? Minus 3/4 Barcelona. They were minus quarter at home in the 2023-24 quarterfinal, the one they lost 4-1 before PSG became the best team in Europe. And Barca that season were this line, minus 3/4, the line we're looking at today, at home to Napoli. And that same season, they were underdogs on the draw no bet line, tie no bet line, at home to Bayern Munich. So the line is definitely saying what the chat is saying, which is, Barcelona are going to win this game easily. And it's easy to see why people would think that. PSG are absolutely plagued by injuries. Dembele, Doué, Kvaratskhelia now as well. And then they've also had doubts over Neves, Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz. So their whole starting front six is either out or doubtful. I think the midfield three will start, but whether they're at full fitness, who knows? And I think if you could guarantee me those three midfielders were at, Vitinha, Neves, and Ruiz were at full fitness, I'd be all over PSG plus 3/4 here. But something in me tells me that they're not. And in fact, Luis Enrique said yesterday in the press conference, he kind of downplayed the importance of this game, really. And, is it really that big a deal? Both of these teams won their first game, PSG particularly comfortably without Dembele and Doué. And both of them should finish in the top 8. Worst case scenario, they finish in the top 16 like PSG did last season. And, that served as kind of a primer that paved the way for them going on and winning the tournament. So I'm torn, but a couple of things I do like. I do like under 1.5 first half goals. I think generally the rule is to not back unders in Barcelona games. Not if you want to not be sitting on a bucket for the whole game, or, you just generally don't want to do it. That's the definition of an uncomfortable bet. But I think Luis Enrique really, given how depleted his squad is, I think his game plan has to be to sit back, absorb pressure, and look to hit on the break. And who's he going to look to hit on the break with? Well, it has to be Bradley Barcola. There really is no one else. Kvaratskhelia is out now as well. So I don't know much about Mbaye. It's either Mbaye or it's Kangin Lee or it's Ramos with Barcola. And I think Barcola is by far the main threat that PSG have here. It's definitely the threat I'm most worried about as a Barca fan. As a Barca fan, I'm going into this game confident. But when it comes to betting, the line is the line in 3/4. This would have been -1/4, maybe even draw no bet last season. So under 1.5 first half goals at -112. You've also got on your side the fact that Barca games tend to feature way more goals in the second half than the first. So I think that's an uncomfortable but attractive bet. And then Barcola to have, we've been there many, many times before. We've cashed countless winning tickets on Barcola to do something in a game. And here, for him to only have a shot on target or more, -140, I think that's also a very good bet.
Yeah, I do agree with both of those bets, actually. I am thinking on the same lines of you in terms of, I actually like under here as well. It's a concern because, there was a stat which producer Troy sent over to me today on the Barcelona game. Over 2.5 goals has hit in each of Barcelona's last 15 Champions League home matches. That's the 2.5 line. Now, the line that I'd be looking to go is under 3.5, because I just think sometimes, there was a similar match last year. It was Arsenal PSG. It ended 2-0. All right, Arsenal have a lot of completely different style, but it was a bit of a damp squib of a game, really. And I wonder if both teams might give each other a bit of respect. G. Davis is kind of right. I think Enrique will not go crazy. It's only match day 2. I don't see this, especially with the absences that are in PSG's ranks here. Dembele, Doué, Kvaratskhelia. Rafinha's ruled out, isn't he, for Barcelona? Firmin, I think, is ruled out as well. Chesney's going to be in goal for them, for Barcelona, because the two keepers are out, right, Will? So, that's, he's a veteran keeper, though. He knows what he's doing. I just don't really... Well, cool, it's Barcelona, so a match could easily go crazy, but I think the line is just set. It feels like the sort of goal line which the books have just had to put in because of who's involved. They couldn't risk going lower because they just couldn't risk it. But I just wonder if in this instance tonight, whether that goal line is higher than it should be. But it is really uncomfortable, isn't it, to be going?
I think another way into this actually is, Byron's mentioned it, Hakimi. I've just went and checked out his shot on target price, +225. And I think Byron's got the idea, if Luis Enrique sees it that way, is, Hakimi will be up against Rashford, right? And so,
yeah, that's true.
Hakimi +225 shot on target, that's a great shout. I'm assuming that's what you're trying to say, Byron. But The shots on target. Be interested to see what his over 1.5 shots is, but I think I prefer the over half shots on target at a big price.
Lamsource is a Barcelona fan. He quite likes the under as well. 2-0 full time is what he's predicted. There's been a lot. I say that Barcelona winning over 1.5 goals. Quite a lot put that as their best bet in chat, and that may well come in. Dave Clark says, "Do you think Barcelona and over 1.5 could be a bet?"
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I do fancy Barca to win, but it's kind of against my principles to bet it at the prices. My cancelled principles all around ratings and stuff, and so it's kind of against my principles. But it does feel good. It does feel like that's a very likely outcome, and you're probably getting a price which is, I don't know, -130 or something, -120.
Yeah. Let's see how this one goes. I think Will's gone under 1.5 first half goals. Barcola shot on target. Under 3.5 goals for me, matched line as a strong lead, must say. This feels like a spot where you can get involved with the unders. Let's move to a different city. Let's move to London. Arsenal versus Olympiakos. Here, Arsenal -590 on the money line. Olympiakos are a big price here at 16-1. It's been quite a good week, really, for Arsenal, hasn't it? They got that late winner at St James's Park. Liverpool seem to be on a little bit of a struggling suddenly. A bit more optimism around Arsenal. They've got a match against West Ham coming up this weekend, the London derby. Maybe they might have half an eye on that one. And Arsenal Champions League games at home just seem to go in the same direction, all the time. They often win to 0. Sometimes they'll rack up the score and get 3 or 4, but sometimes it's just 1 or 2-0. That's the direction, surely, again, that we're going to get. It's just a question of how many Arsenal are going to get.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the chat is basically saying it. It's exactly what I've got in my notes. Arsenal and under 3.5. Arsenal or Arsenal to 0. Both have been backed in, but I think this is one of those games where you've got to keep it simple. And, I've got Arsenal rated as the best team in Europe currently. I know that's probably quite a bold statement.
That's interesting. Now, that is a really interesting one. Right, clearly or close?
I mean, it's close. I think you've got to do some massaging of the data when the raw data is trying to push Arsenal out to being significantly the best team in Europe. But I think they are. I think, the market is telling us that the Premier League is so much stronger than the rest, and Arsenal are the best team in the Premier League. So, but then again, they don't tend to blow teams out. 7 of 8 have gone under 3.5 so far for Arsenal this season. So you edging towards even money with Arsenal winning under 3.5 goals.
Yeah,
just keep it simple, I think.
Bit surprised there wasn't more money on Arsenal here. 93% of the money and just 83% of the tickets. Maybe there's quite a few Greek fans on Bet Rivers. I don't know. But the biggest bet on the game is nearly $3,000 and the over 3 Asian total at -122. But only 81% of the money is on the overs for this game. 2-0, 3-0 Arsenal feels about right. I would agree with you there. Under Arsenal and under 3.5 would be nothing wrong with that bet whatsoever. It's not a match to overcomplicate it with, like you said. Will Arsenal win to 0 as well for those who want to bet on that? It's certainly an option to look at. Let's move to Monaco. Monaco against Manchester City here. A Monaco side who got embarrassed badly the last 2 matches. And a terrible, terrible start for them in the Champions League. They conceded so many shots, didn't they, against Club Brugge? Man City -240 favourites to win on the south coast of France. And I don't think Monaco will have many supporters here in terms of the betting market or even in the stands, really. Manchester City, it looks a great time to be facing this Monaco side. We're in a bit of a mini crisis, Will.
Yeah. It was kind of, I mean, not funny, but it was in, I'm not sure if you saw them, but the photos of the Monaco squad on the delayed flights to Bruges with the air conditioning broke, and they were all there in their kind of shorts, having a good time, having a laugh and stuff. But you wonder how much that kind of hurt their preparations. Yeah, they just weren't at it at all against Bruges. Also, Bruges got absolutely steamed in that day as well. So the market knew what was coming. And then since then, I know they've definitely lost Kamara since then. I think they were missing Zakaria when they faced Bruges, but they're absolutely decimated by injury. They've got the derby coming up at the weekend against Nice. They had a shocker at the weekend against Lorient. They had a man sent off there as well, so played a lot of the game, I think, down to 10 men. I think it was, quite early in the first half, they went down to 10 men. And, it's hard to look past City. Let's just keep it simple. This could be a ladder game. Just putting it out there, I'm not really a ladder proponent, but this could be the one. Man City -1.25 at -130 seems pretty reasonable to me. It's hard to see anything other than a pretty comfortable City win.
I think this match is going to have a lot of goals in it as well. Over 3.5 goals is at -114. And this might sound like the squarest play of the day, but I'm just going to have to take it. I don't think it's immense value or anything. I think it's probably a fair line, but everything points towards a lot of goals. Manchester City could cover it on their own. The way Monaco are defending right now, the only concern for me is if they just suddenly change their approach and okay, let's just try and keep it tight. But I don't think they're capable of it. They're not capable. All the strengths of the Monaco team are in attack. They do have some decent attackers. They can fight fire with fire here. So they might be able to catch Manchester City out. But Haaland's in such great form, isn't he, for them? Manchester City, from an offensive point of view, nice little boost for them against Burnley at the weekend. And I do think they can fill their boots again. In terms of ladders, you'd be looking at, I presume, here at the Asian ladder for Manchester City.
I think so, yeah. I can see
-2 on the Asians at +165. That's quite a decent bet. Manchester City, I could see something like 4-1 here, personally.
What price did you say there, Steve? And what line?
-2 Asian handicap on Manchester City is +165.
Yeah. So I was looking at -2.5 +220 and -3.5 +480. Those are big handicaps, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not a proponent of the ladder, so it's definitely not the official play. My official play would be City -1.25, much more conservative.
Yes.
But talking about the goals, I know you like the overs here.
I'm not going to ladder the goals, though. I'm not going to ladder the goals because it's one of those where I could see City actually, if City won to 0, I'm not the biggest shock in the world, like 4-0. For Manchester City, I'm not totally shocked either. But Monaco, if they've got anything about them here, they should really be getting on the board. So, but I do like over 3.5. Definitely, it's a strong selection. It's quite a square bet, really. But often these sometimes do win. It's like when you're betting on Bayern Munich and overs, isn't it? Just got to not even think about it, overthink about it. It's interesting. Your ladder's often staying in the shed. It's got dust on it, cobwebs, everything. So the sheer mention it might be coming out. You're dusting it off, literally. You're dusting it off.
I felt compelled to jump on the bandwagon after last night. So probably should not follow me in on that one. And like I said, main bet is City -1.25. Monaco's main weapons are offensively for sure, but I'm wondering whether they just kind of run out of energy and will at some point early in the second half and just get blown out. It's definitely a tail outcome that is possible.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there that the Asian total for the first half is 1.5. For those who are interested in that, over 1.5 first half goals, -109. I could see City coming out strong, and City to win at half time is nearly even money. -124 for Manchester City to be winning at half time. I think there was a few people in chat putting the half time full time. Russ M there being one of them. But yeah, I think it's a match. Yeah, it's a match to steam into. It is. It definitely is. And 94% of the money's on Man City, 91% of the tickets, 90% of the tickets on the over as well. Biggest bet on the game is nearly $4,000. Manchester City on the money line. And look at this stat, over 3.5 goals has hit in 9 of Man City's last 10 Champions League away games. That was one I got from producer Troy. And that certainly helps me out in the over. But hopefully we can really crush this game, Will, and get a nice big win for City across the board.
It does seem obvious, and now that it's a kind of bandwagon play, but all know what happens next, and we certainly do not want to call it a winner and go to the gambling gods. So yeah, all respect to the markets, but yeah, it does seem very obvious, doesn't it?
All right, let's move to a really, really interesting game. Napoli Sporting, and I'm really intrigued by the odds here, actually. Napoli plus 106, ties at plus 235, and Sporting Lisbon plus 270. Now, we've got the Serie A champions here. They're one of the favourites to win Serie A this season. They get home to... Look, I think that it's hard to rank the Portuguese team. Some say Benfica are the best team now. Some say it's still Sporting. Either way, even if, let's just say Sporting are the best team in Portugal, it's a bit of a surprise to me that a Serie A team this good would be plus 106 to beat them at home. I know they've got a few injury concerns here, Napoli, but am I missing something here? Is it a trap with Napoli? They just look big.
A little bit. I mean, it's what it is it's syndicate money backing Sporting Lisbon here on the plus and a half, and it's gone all the way to almost the plus a quarter. So it's been a big move, and it's a lot of money behind it. Sporting are good. I've got them as the best team in Portugal. And I think Napoli are probably not as good as most people think. And they are missing Di Lorenzo, Ramani, and Buongiorno. So they're decimated really at the back. So I can see why the money's coming for Sporting. But I do think the market is a little bit ignoring of, Lisbon only flew in very late last night. They had a mechanical problem with the plane. They've had, the Portuguese league has been crammed full of fixtures. They've been starting their starting lineup, the same strong players, the same Suarez, Pote, Gwenda, Hillman, Morita. Those guys have been starting game in, game out. I'm wondering whether this is the moment that they kind of take their foot off the gas. So I'm not that enamored by Sporting Lisbon here. And I think I'm waiting for the best price possible on Napoli. I don't know when that's going to be, but maybe minus a quarter, minus 110 would be the time to strike if it gets there. And the other one I really like, a player prop here, is Rasmus Højlund, minus 125 to have a shot on target as probably Napoli's main threat. I know he was poor last season for United. I know he hasn't really caught fire yet this season, but I do think he will rediscover his form under Conte. And that season at Atalanta, he was averaging 1.37 shots on target per 90, which is astronomical in a very attacking front-footed Atalanta team, yes. But I think that's big value. So Rasmus Højlund, over 0.5 shots on target, minus 125, main bets with a side bet on Napoli minus a quarter. If the steam continues for Sporting Lisbon, if it gets to minus 110.
Yeah, I've got Napoli minus a quarter of a goal written down as a lean here as well, currently minus 130. But it does feel like a trap. Something doesn't feel quite right, but at the same time, it's a very, very attractive price. I mean, you mentioned there you're kind of waiting for the odds, you're waiting for the market moves. I mean, you've said before, either get on early, get on late. I mean, personally yourself, what's the biggest early bet you've managed to get on this week in the Champions League for Wednesday, just as a general? Which match would you been able to get involved in? Man
City.
Yeah, but often, yeah.
Because they were on the kind of minus 3/4 line when it first opened. And then as Monaco started to lose players and started to lose games, and the market came to an awareness that City are actually probably quite good this season, obviously that's shortened a lot now. But fighting to get that value was difficult early. And then this is a game where, there's never really been a rush to get on Napoli with their defensive absences and Sporting's good form. So it's just a case of waiting to get as good a odds as possible if you like Napoli. And for me, I'll set the line in the sand at minus 120 probably on the minus a quarter.
Yeah, and it's maybe not a million miles away. You might be able to get that. at some stage. Effie, good to see you. He's put his bets in chat there. Full time smells like a draw, says Lamb Sauce. Yeah, I mean, I'm really intrigued by it. It's just one of those matches. When I first saw it, I thought Napoli would be about minus 130 just on the money line to win. You delve deeper and you can see there's reasons for it. And Sporting, I do know underlying metrics are strong for them. No doubt about it. This season, last season, whatever. I'm not sure about them. But let's see. 2 more matches to discuss before we finish the show. We've got Borussia Dortmund there against Athletic Bilbao, minus 129 for Dortmund. Bilbao plus 350, the tie at plus 275. I always quite like Bilbao as an underdog, actually, in games, especially this big. But one thing that's clear with them, they just can't seem to score goals right now against anyone, even if they dominate the fixtures. So this is actually, I was a bit annoyed, Will. I was hoping to get a really nice high goal line on this game. I was thinking could get 2.75, even dreaming of a 3, and I'd be definitely on the unders. But we could only get 2.5 line on the under. You could stretch to 2.75 under, in fairness. And I still do like that. Another under I quite fancy today, just on Bilbao's limitations. They seem nothing without the Williams.
Yeah. I was wanting to be with Athletic Club here, but Nico Williams not being in the squad has kind of definitely dampened my enthusiasm. It's and got me to think a bit more about unders, actually. But like you say, like it's plus 2 3/4. Unders is a no-brainer. Plus at 2.5, not so sure against Dortmund, who, you know, they had that 4-4 against Juve. I'm not trusting them really with unders. We've had this conversation week in, week out on this show about Dortmund unders in Champions League, you know, and I've never really trusted it. And I'm not going to here, even though I really think, I think Athletic Club are going to come in here, sit back and try and be very defensive, kind of like they were against Arsenal. The Arsenal line, I think it was 2.25, and that was against Arsenal. And now we're seeing 2.5 here. We were hoping for 2 3/4. On a side note, Julian Brandt, if he does start, probably won't. But if he does start, he probably shouldn't be plus 175 to have a shot on target. Even though he's not in great form, he's quite prolific when it comes to shots over his career. And I think that's just a bit too big. But yeah, I'm deviating from the main point of discussion, which is the match itself, and it's just a tough one to call. Certainly couldn't be with Dortmund at quite short minus money, though.
Byron says, what does Bilbao offer Dortmund? Absolutely nothing. I think the final third is the problem, Byron. I mean, defensively, they'll be well set up, and they'll look good on the eye. They'll really good technical side, but the end product just isn't there. Dortmund have had a 3-3 draw this season and a 4-4 draw. Every other match they've won to 0. So that is, I think Dortmund can be more trusted at times, but there's still those silly daft games that they have, like the Juve fixture, which was 4-4. Under 2.5 goals as a lean for me here. Lamsaw says, what do you think about the play? Draw at half-time, Dortmund full-time, plus 340. Yeah, I could see that, actually. I could see a 0-0 at half-time here, and then Dortmund finding a way in the second half to get past this Bilbao team. I could see that, Will.
Yeah. La Liga schedule has been tough. They had a midweek card last week. Bundesliga didn't. So maybe the Bilbao legs are kind of a little bit more tired. But then, I don't know, the flip side of that is that Bilbao could rotate here. They did against Arsenal. They rotated a lot, and it was a bit of a surprise. And maybe they do the same here. And then you don't want to be on draw full-time draw half-time, Dortmund full-time. So tough to say without seeing the lineups, but the angle in there would be that, yeah, Bilbao have played that midweek card, and maybe their legs are they're running on empty. Got a lot of injuries too.
97% of the money's on Dortmund here, and 95% of the tickets. That's a lot more than I thought there would be. 63% of the money is on the under. There's 88% of the tickets on the over, but the significant money's come for the under for the game, and I can see that. Malvo says BVB corners, Dortmund corners -1. Is that a gift? It could be, because Bilbao do cut inside quite a lot with their tactics. So maybe that is, there should be domination by Dortmund, I think, in terms of that one as well. We've got one more match to discuss, but before that, the Betting Weekly newsletter. Please do sign up for free if you've not already. I'm sure most of you already do, but any newbies coming into the channel today, please do subscribe. Sign up for free. 2 newsletters a week, including the Insider on Friday, which has several matches covered in the soccer world, US sports as well, and tennis when there's main tennis events on. So please do sign up for free. One final fixture. I got the John Graphics to do this as a blown up game because I thought we might have a lot of interest in it. But the more I looked at it, the less I liked. Probably the one game of the day I've got nothing on at all. Well, the Juventus have let me down recently, badly, actually. They've annoyed me, to be honest with you. And part of me was thinking that they could be a big price here. But Villarreal, home team, La Liga, probably feels about right. I don't know what's going on with the Juventus. Well, I feel like the results should be a bit better than they are, but they're not defending strongly enough, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about Villarreal in general. I don't think they deserve to lose against Spurs in what was kind of a drab affair. And then Juve obviously had that crazy 4-4 against Dortmund. I wanted to back Villarreal -1/4 here, but it's just been steamed in. It was plus money and it's steamed in too far now. I definitely can't be backing it at current prices. So it's gone from a game I was quite excited for to one of kind of like, well, Juve don't seem to be taking this too seriously either. They've got a big match against AC at the weekend. They've left Thuram and somebody else that I can't remember. They left them out of the squad. So yeah, not much excitement about this game unless you like player props, which I just so happen to like. And shots on target. I've got 2 here, actually, both Juve. I don't think Villarreal are particularly watertight at the back. Jonathan David and Kenan Yildiz, -117 and -120 respectively. Now, I know Juventus are the dogs. No, they're not particularly attacking, but I'd say those 2 are their main threats. And Yildiz in particular has definitely been on form. It's been on fire, really. So, it's hard to imagine a scenario where neither of them register a shot on target. So those would be my picks, and to give me a bit more encouragement about the game in general.
I think you've actually said the point there that Juventus are not particularly attacking. And that's what annoys me about them. They should be attacking. Look at the weapons they have. I think the formation stinks right now that he's using. He can't get the best players on the field. The bench has the likes of Vlahovic on it. It's had McKennie on it. Zagrova, it's stupid. I'm sorry, but if you've got a lopsided squad, and at the minute, I think they're better players, or some of their better players are certainly in attacking areas, but he's only starting 1 striker. I mean, you've got to adapt the system. So for me, it's a coaching issue that there's simply not enough weapons on the field at a certain time. Yildiz, like you said, has been a bright spark. For sure, and he deserves his spot in the team. But I would have him. I would play something like a 4-3-1-2. I think if you want to be narrow, go 4-3-1-2, and Yildiz can play as like the 10 in that system. But yeah, you can tell the Juventus are annoying me, Will, can't you? So,
well, I know Nigel's on them to win the Champions League. Are you on with him? That's the one where I'll shave my head and wear a Real Madrid.
Well, the minute your hair's not in danger, is it?
I'm never going to be in danger, Steve, with that one. Not with that one, anyway.
But I do see a lot of potential in the squad. If a certain manager, a type of manager, maybe came in there, I think Tudor. I'm disappointed with him actually. I've always quite rated him, and he's not at the minute sorting it out. But let's see where they are at Christmas, because this team should be doing a lot better than it is doing. They're actually back low on the sports, but 85% of the money's on Juventus. Will 80% of the tickets as well, and another match where under is favoured. Nearly 60% of the money's on the under. The goal line. What is the goal line for this game? I didn't even actually properly check it.
Is it
2.5? So under's favoured here. Again, like you said, Juventus are not particularly attacking enough for what they have. But the shots on target angles there you've got going. You've given us plenty of shots on targets here. The under cashed last time you were on the show, but the over this time has certainly cashed.
Just keeping the viewers on their toes, Steve. Like I did say, I was back with a vengeance, and here we go.
So, what would be your best bet today? Then give us a best shot on target bet and maybe a best other bet.
Best shot on target bet. I'm not sure if it's my best, but my favorite is Claudio Echeverri, just because he's the biggest price, plus 160, and I think he's going to play in a sneaky advanced position, and I think he's a player. Probably, strongest shot on target bet would be Bradley Barcola. Actually, shout out to Byron again. Hakimi plus 225. It's definitely on my favorites as well. And then favorite bets. I mean, I kind of got to say City, right? Minus 1.25. It's the bandwagon play. It's the chat play. It's both of our plays in different ways, or you're on the overs, obviously. But City, like, how do they not blow Monaco out here? Famous last words, but
yeah, that's my best bet, over 3.5 in that game. And I love your angle with the Manchester City and the ladder potential there. Other bets, I would say second best bet is in the early game for me, Qarabag, plus 1/4 goal. I do like that under in the Newcastle game, and a worrying under that like in Barcelona versus PSG. There's still a lot of potential on the card. Let's hope we can cash plenty of winners. Great show as always, Will. I really appreciate those thoughts. Thanks everyone who joined in, live or on demand. Please do hit that subscribe button if you've not already, and hit the likes as well, and put your comments not just in the chat now, but if you're watching on demand, put it on the actual underneath the video and let us know what you're on, what you like. Give us the feedback, and I'll be back with James Easton tomorrow, Betting Weekly Live, Europa League, and does this conference start tomorrow? I think it does. It does, doesn't it? Exciting times, Will. But enjoyed that one as ever. Thanks so much for your time.
Cheers. All the best. Good luck.
Yeah. Remember, gamble responsibly, everyone, and take care. See you next time on Betting Weekly Live. Goodbye.